Hello guys, today we're going to be working on this front load style LG washer. The model number it's on the display. Welcome to DIY Repair Now. Read all the warnings, and during this video you will see one or more of these icons to help you do this repair safe. The first thing we're going to do is disconnect the washer or turn it off at the breaker to avoid electric shock. The complaint is that the washer is not draining when it finishes the cycle. We're going to remove this cover to have access to the water filter and the drain hose. We're always going to be prepared for water to spill down. This is how you drain this front load style washer. You remove the little cap and drain it with this little tiny drain hose. That way when you remove the cap from the drain pump, the water does not go all over the floor. If you want to speed up the process, go ahead and twist the cap counterclockwise, and this will remove the filter for the drain pump. This filter filters all the water that is coming from the top to the drain pump, and then the water goes towards to the drain of the house. And as you see, something was stuck inside this filter. It could be a piece of rock or something like that. Now, always, like I said, be prepared for water to spill down. As you can see, I still got the washer on, but I'm going to explain to you later why I keep it on. Go ahead and put this cap on the drain little tube to prevent from water to keep coming out and to prevent from loosening the cap. Remove the Phillips screws and then remove this piece of the housing for the cover and also the drain pump. Now there's another screws right there, and I will tell you later on why these screws have to be removed. And now we're going to remove the spring that holds the rubber booth. As you see right there, that holds this piece in place. Go ahead and peel it off and push it in, because next we're going to go ahead and remove this front panel. We want to make sure if that drain pump didn't break because of the piece of rag. Sometimes that piece of rag can get inside the blade and it will broke or cracked or damage the drain pump. Now we're going to go ahead and disconnect the door latch. As you see, this is the door latch right here, and this is how we access to it. You can remove this latch by disconnecting this harness right here, or connection, however you want to call it, and that has a press and release mechanism. Trying to put my hands inside, but it's kind of a tight space. Now you just go ahead and press and release and just wiggle it until the connector comes out. And as you can see, I already disconnected, and you can see right there the mechanism where you can just press and release. The other way to remove this latch will be removing these two Phillips screws, and the whole thing will come loose. Just keep in mind that when you remove this and you remove the whole panel, the door is not going to hold in place once you put the whole frame, the whole front panel to the side. The latch is not going to be there to hold the door in place, so just put it flat in the floor. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the two Phillips screws. They are holding the top panel. This has 4 screws, and you will remove the ones I'm showing you in the video. The other 2 and the other part is not necessary. Go ahead and push back, and as you can see, once you push back, it has some connections right there. They are very important. This is one, here's another one, and there's 2 in the back, and it's also a hook. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a better view and when I put everything back together. But just keep in mind that when you put this panel back on, you have to make sure it works. It goes in those 4 connections right there. Now we're going to go ahead and remove this Phillips screws to remove the front display panel. There's one right there. Then we're going to remove this drawer, and to remove the drawer, we're going to have to press this right here because it has like a tap right there. Once you press it down, it releases the whole drawer. Then we're going to remove the 2 Phillips screws that are holding this part of the display panel. We're going to push this dispenser, soap dispenser back, and now we're going to release the top by lifting this from top of the display panel. Keep in mind, this is the tabs that are holding the panel in place. So if you have to use like a screwdriver or something to release it, it's okay. Sometimes it doesn't come out by hand, but just keep in mind that those are the ones hold it in place. If it's necessary, like I said, go ahead and put like a screwdriver around here to get it loose in each tab. Go ahead and go back in the video and just look at the arrows, and the arrows will tell you which is the tabs that you have to release with the screwdriver. We're gonna go ahead and disconnect this wiring. Always take pictures before you disconnect any wirings or any connections or any harnesses, because those pictures will help you when you're putting everything back together. Now we got it loose, and we can remove the whole display panel. Now we're going to remove the Phillips screws that are holding this front panel. That is where the door is attached. Keep in mind that that door is kind of heavy, and like I said, if you remove the latch by removing the 2 Phillips screws, that door is going to keep slamming on you. So you can go ahead and just, be careful with it. Always be careful with sharp edges. Use long gloves or long sleeve shirt. And as you can see, it comes right out. Remember, there is always a screws here in the bottom. The screws have to be removed when you remove the panel. I show you that at the beginning of the video. Now we're going to go ahead and start removing the drain pump. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and replace the drain pump motor only, not the whole housing, because it's more affordable to replace just the motor. Now this housing has two pumps. One is for draining pump and the other one is for circulation. The one on the right is for circulation and the one on the left is for draining. Over here I was trying to check the blades with the Allen wrench, but it was not success. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove it. Over here, I'm using a 7/16 or a 1/2 inch socket to remove these screws. These are the screws that are holding the drain pump housing in place. It has 2 screws, one on each side of the housing drain pump. So I'm using my drill, but you can also use a screwdriver like the one I'm going to use to remove the one in the back, because the drill does not fit in the back. So go ahead and try to make sure this pump comes loose. I always do it this way because when I remove the whole housing, this drain hose, the one is coming from the top to the pump housing, it's very hard to put the drain hose back in place. And sometimes if you don't put it right, it started leaking and you have to take everything apart again just to connect that drain hose right. So if you want to do it my way, I think it's better, because you're only going to do it, you're only going to take it apart once. So now that we got this part loose, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the drain hose, and I'm going to show you how it should work. Before we do that, we got to go ahead and loosen up these screws. They are in the bottom of the pump. They are Phillips screws, and like I said, you can use your drill or your screwdriver to remove them and have access to the pump. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove these 2 screws, but there's another one in the front if you want to work better. If you remove the 3rd screws, this plate on the bottom of the housing will come loose, and I believe it is best for you. However, I leave it like this because I'm trying to be in and out, and I have to jump to the next repair. There are a total of 3 Phillips screws that are holding this motor pump in place, and this is how the blade looks. Now so far everything looks fine in here. I just want to make sure everything is fine with the blade and the motor. However, you're not going to know until you go ahead and test it when you put it back together in this scenario, this is why I left the washer in place, because I want to go ahead and show you how this pump works, and I'm going to go ahead and make it to come on while I have it off. However, I don't recommend for you to do that because it can be dangerous working with the power on. This is just for demonstration. Now I'm gonna go ahead and clean all this gasket that it's around the pump. This gasket is the one that prevents the water from leaking out, so just make sure it's clean when you put the new pump if you have to replace the pump. Now your case might be just the same of this one, something just stuck in the pump or something stuck in the drain line. However, go ahead and check this other part of the drain line. This is the part that goes towards to the drain in the house. As you can see right there, nothing was clogged, nothing was in there. It was just the piece that we saw earlier, the red rag. Put my finger in there, I don't feel anything, so I think that part is totally fine. Now we're gonna go ahead and throw some water in to make sure this drain hose is not clogged. If water comes out, that means the drain hose that comes from the top to the pump housing, it's fine. So go ahead and throw a little bit of water there. Now we already checked the drain hose from the top to the filter housing, the drain hose from the filter housing to the drain of the house. And now we're gonna go ahead and check the drain pump just to make sure this drain pump is fine before we put everything back together. Now I'm gonna go ahead and link in the description of this video the replacement pump. If I found a aftermarket with good reviews, I'm gonna go ahead and link it in the description of this video. Right now I'm gonna go ahead and connect this piece right here, this display panel. Like I said, this is just for demonstration. I'm gonna go ahead and plug the switch because I want to make the machine thinks that everything is back together by connecting the door latch, the display panel, and make the washer to come on. Now once you plug all this stuff, go ahead and just put any settings, because all this washer starts by draining any water that it's on the tub every time you start a load. So we put drain and spin, and like every load, the drain pump comes on for about 5-10 seconds or a minute the most. And as you can see, the drain pump is working fine and strong. That means the windings on the motor are fine. That means the blade is fine. I don't see anything wrong with this pump. So we're gonna go ahead and just show you the procedure in case yours is broken, how you will replace it. Let's say this is the new pump. Go ahead and disconnect those two wires. Once you got the new pump, just plug everything back together. This piece always also comes out in case the new one does not bring one. Then plug your drain pump again. This wire does not matter which one goes where. Is, you know, just plug the wires, but always take pictures in case you're concerned about that, and plug it in the right way like the old one was. Over here I had a little trouble because I always recommend to take pictures, but sometimes I don't take the pictures. Just trying to look the best position for this pump. It can go in any direction, but if you put it in the wrong direction, you might find that the drain hose that goes from the housing towards the drain of the house could be in the way. So always take pictures before you remove any parts or any wiring. Now I figured out how the other one was, and because I have to go and look at the video that I'm recording with this camera, got a GoPro on my forehead, but you get the idea. Once I got it in place, go ahead and install the 3 screws that are holding this pump in place. Again, keep in mind that take pictures where this screws was, because you want to make sure you install this pump in place correctly. Now, as you can see, I'm putting the screws with my drill, but I don't like to over tighten the screws with the drill. So I just started up with the drill, but I do hand tie, because remember, this screws goes in plastic. So if you have a drill that is too powerful, it can strip the screws and you're gonna end up with water leak. So you don't want that to happen. Once you got the pump in place, make sure all these supports for the housing are in place. Most of the time they will fall off. Just put them back in place by just squeeze the top and make them fit in the hole. Now we're gonna go ahead and install the 2 screws that we removed earlier on the bottom. Remember, this whole frame will come loose if you remove the 3rd screws right there in the pump where you see this picture. Now, once we install these 2 screws, we're just gonna go ahead and position everything in place. This is the screw that I was telling you about in the front, the 3rd screws. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the clamp for this part of the drain hose. The one goes towards the house, drain line of the house. And as you see, these supports are keep coming off, but just put it back on because they have to be in this frame. That way it doesn't make a lot of noise when the washer is shaking. Now remember, there's 3 screws, so you have to align the filter housing frame support with the holes for the screws to go in. Sometimes, like as you can see in the video, it will be a little difficult because it's a tight space. I'm gonna use my drill. You can use your screwdriver. Just, same thing in the pump. Remember, this goes to a plastic, so try to be gentle with the torque on the drill or the screwdriver. I always recommend just do a hand tie. When you start feeling tension on your hand or your drill, that's when you have to stop. Don't force it, don't over tighten it, because you can end up stripping the screw frame or something. Now I'm trying to get to the one in the back, and this is what I do. I start it up by hand and then I use my screwdriver or my drill. I'm trying to leave most of the details, guys, for you, because it's a big chance that you're going to end up running into the same situation than I run right now. Now this is the last and 3rd screws that I'm doing. At this point, we almost done with all the procedure. I have to remove this clamp that was holding this wiring earlier to have more access to the pump, but go ahead and put everything back together like it was. Those are like a twist clamps. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the filter back in place and twist it clockwise until you feel tension. Then we're gonna go ahead and install this front panel back in place and plug our door latch. We at least have to, install one of the screws on the top or all of them if you feel more comfortable doing that, because otherwise this panel will keep falling on you. Now I speed up this process because you already know this just to, screws, those Phillips screws. Now go ahead and position towards you the dispenser, the soap dispenser, and we're gonna go ahead and disconnect this touch panel because we only connect it for demonstration. That way you guys can see how the pump works. Now, if your washer is not draining and nothing is blocking the pump, that means you need a new pump. Keep in mind these tabs have to be in place when you put everything back together. Now we're gonna go ahead and plug in this 3 harness or connections, however you want to call it, and go ahead and put the clamps that holds this wiring in place. Now always take pictures. I'm gonna keep saying it because those pictures will save your life at the end when you put everything back together. Then we put the 2 Phillips screws that hold this part of this display panel by the dispenser, by the soap dispenser. Then this is the screw that holds the other end. You have to make sure you put that one, or otherwise the panel is going to be loose and it's going to make noise. Now we're going to plug in our door latch by going through this side of the washer, and you're just going to go ahead and push it in until you hear like a click. That means the secure tab, it secured it in place. Make sure you connect that right because the vibration can get it loose. Now this has kind of a how do you call that, like a loop there that it have to be in that gap. You will see what I'm talking about. That piece have to be placed inside the canal. That way the spring that we're going to install to secure this grabs it really nice and seals it all the way around. As you can see, I'm like a peel it off and then I make it fit inside that canal. I don't know how you can call that, but it's just like you can see it right there. Just push it to the side and it will fit right in place. As you can see, this is how I do it to make it go in place. Now we're going to install this spring. It goes through the same gap, and this is how I do it. I do it with a needle nose in the bottom and hold the other top, hold the spring and this end right there, because it's very difficult to do it by yourself. It keeps coming off. As you can see, this can be a little buggy, a little difficult. So this is what I do. I hold this side right there where you see my hand, and with a needle nose I push into it, goes in place. If you have somebody to help you, it's even better. Go ahead and remember to put the screw right there in the bottom. Sometimes that screw can get rusty. If it gets rusty, don't worry about it. Don't put anything back in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and secure with this Phillips screws this plastic housing. We're gonna go ahead and adjust our little drain holes in place and go ahead and put the cover back on. Now let's install the soap dispenser drawer and install the top panel. Now remember what I told you about those connections right there. It's like a male to female connection that have to be set in those 4 corners. This is how it looks. I'm gonna go ahead and lift up, that way you guys can have an idea how it works. This one have to align with that other one, and then just push it towards the front, and then it secures the door in place. Then lastly, we're going to install the 2 screws that will prevent from this panel to slide back and fall back. Remember, there are Phillips screws, and it's this only 2 screws that you have to remove the top cover. Now we're going to go ahead and put any setting to wash. That way it brings some water in. And mostly I'm going to go ahead and speed up this process. That way you guys can see where the water comes in, because sometimes it has to sense how much clothes is in there and things like that. So it can take a little while, but I speed up and cut some pieces. But over here you can hear that it's already filling in water, and you're going to be able to see it right there. It's a little bit of water there. Just keep sensing. And there's more water. Now we have a little bit of water there, and we're just gonna cancel the cycle. When we cancel the cycle, and you turn it back on and put any setting, it will start the drain pump again. And that's how I can fast forward the test. However, you don't have to go through this procedure. By the way, there's already draining. As you can see, it drained all the water out, but you can avoid all this by just putting a load. All right, guys, if this video helped you in any way, you can show us appreciation by giving us a tip using the following options that you see on the screen. If you cannot provide with a tip, is another way to support this channel by just dropping off a comment in the comment section down below. Subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the bell to receive notifications. Thanks for watching.